units. And there's this one.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the two cavemen are looking down and they dug this big hole, made a pit, put the cover over it, and the cover's all caved in, and the one caveman slaps the other one on the back and says, "Big one, thing, we catch big one," and the other guy's going like this, and he knocked him in. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I shot this one. Yeah, I can tell.
Oh yeah, how can you tell?
Well, it's the fattest one, the biggest, fattest one, and it has no shot marks in the body.
Oh really?
Yeah. It's pretty simple, really.
Huh.
I can tell after I pick and clean the ducks, I can tell which ones I shot. Yeah.
Oh man, Mike. I'm really glad I'm capturing these moments with you. Nothing but truth and wisdom. Good stuff.
That's right, you bet.
That's right. When did the idea saying, I'm going to develop a duck marsh?
Oh man. Probably not long after I leased this property. I kind of felt like, in my mind, it had some potential. There was nothing here but a pasture, and then the old slough went through the property, and it was just, except for the little patches of open water, it was nothing but round stem bulrush. But I feel, you know, I have the ag chemical background, and had a sense that when you took the water off of this place, hey, there goes two mallards. When you take the water off this place, that you could spray those tulies and potentially open this up. And after the government came to me and wanted to dig all this out and make these deeper ponds for Yuba City, then it came to pass that I thought, you know, I could de-level that pasture and do just that. Then the other thing was, of course, is I got out of the duck club that I was in the Butte Sink that my partner and I had purchased in 1997, and so I was no longer a part of that as of 2000, which was the year we moved in here. And so I just took my experience from that duck club and put it here and started expanding upon what I already knew, and made a lot of mistakes, but it was all mine. I didn't have to worry about answering to anybody else, and I just slowly but surely pecked away. But one of the first things I did was, of course, to plant the trees around the edge, and that was to separate the farm ground from my marsh so that I would create an area that the ducks would feel a little more secure in. You know, as I stated before, ducks are far more sight sensitive than sound sensitive, so consequently that was step number one. Started planting some trees out in the marsh. I started transplanting tulies where the pasture used to be. At the same time, I'm spraying the tulies where they were solid, and eventually it blended together so that I had patches of tulies in the pasture area, and I was opening up areas to make ponds where it was solid tulies. When I say tulies, I'm talking about the majority was round stem bulrush. There was some cattail, a fair amount of cattails out here too. And what was replaced, a seed bank with the watergrass and the smartweed and the sprangletop and some of the other good weeds that produced some feed, would explode the next year. So that was how it got started. And then as the trees got bigger, I started making a few more mounds, and then anytime I got some phone poles out there that I staked underneath some of the trees. I've got lots of logs and branches, larger branches that I put under the trees to create loafing. where the ducks can get out of the water, get up on the logs. In addition, the mounds, I spray them in the spring and sterilize them. Again, I spray out to the drip line, but then when I do my final passes and I do my mowing in August and September, I mow out beyond the drip line, and it very simply gives a place for the ducks to land, and then they can swim up under the trees or get up on a log or get up on the bank and have a place to loaf and have the security of the canopy above them. And basically, because of the amount of trees, I have shot less and less widgeon and teal and sprig, and I shoot more and more mallards and wood ducks. Also have the wood duck nesting program here. I have about 80 wood duck boxes, and so that adds to the wood duck population, and try to keep them happy here. And I try to shoot this on a very limited basis, maybe once a week, and only one blind at a time. So pressure is minimal, and any duck club, it's loafing versus pressure, and every duck club, every piece of property has its own limits. So in this case here, I feel like it's really important not to overshoot it. So I only shoot till 10 in the morning. I don't shoot afternoons.
All I know is my shoulder.
All my water control structures are around one edge, so I don't go out on the property except when I'm hunting. So there's minimal disturbance.
Now, if you back up more, you didn't learn all that overnight. I mean, where did that learning how to do that? Where did learning how to, when you think of where did you learn habitat?
Well, I studied my schooling. That I studied. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biological conservation, and then out of college I became a pest control advisor, and so I have an agricultural background from the School of Hard Knocks. So that's what started it. But I would have to say where one of the ways the light really went on is I had an occasion to go to Arkansas and hunt a duck club outside of Stuttgart called Five Oaks, with a guy that I'd met. His name is George Dunklin. He owns the duck club, and we hunted in green timber, and it's very thick, very dense, and of course that area and that type of habitat is known for, and you'll see it on the shows where the ducks are helicoptering down through these trees, and they're extremely vulnerable. They have to go into a stall and they come straight down. Well, what really interested me, or what caught my eye, was that it wasn't the ducks that we were shooting and the fact that they were coming down through the trees. It was the fact that the ducks that we didn't shoot at, within seconds, disappeared into this area. Now, this is an area that's undulating. It's flooded, but it's different depths. There's lots of brush. There's lots of logs. There's dead trees, and all that. And this is in Arkansas, which is our #1 rice-growing state. So those ducks had the opportunity to go out to feed all night and come back, and they're looking for a place to loaf. Now, when you pair that with the fact that we in California have been limited from burning all of our rice to now only being able to burn a small percentage, what has transpired is that there's lots of people that are flooding their rice fields for decomp. They want to get rid of that straw. However, it's also, they're putting duck blinds out or not, but we are now flooding approximately 300,000 acres in the state, probably over half of our rice acreage. We grow from 500 to 550,000 acres in the Sacramento Valley a year. With that being said, it became, in my mind, it became clear that the food sources, although they are important, maybe not the missing link. If you figure food, water, cover are the three main components of wildlife management, and if you just replace cover with the term loafing, however you use that or whatever you do to create the loafing, you've completed the circle. And these ducks are going out, and now in California, they've got all this rice ground that previously was burned and maybe worked up, if possible, to being flooded. And here we are in January, and we're shooting ducks that are full of rice today, and geese. So these birds have that opportunity. Furthermore, when I talk to the guys that hunt on my commercial properties that are rice fields, and how many of them say, gosh, there was a ton of birds on the property, and we walked out in the morning, and they one shot and they were gone. Well, where'd they go? In my mind, they're going to loaf all day because they've spent all night feeding. So my focus has changed to loafing. And it's not to say that the food sources aren't important. However, it just, this place is set up that way. The Chesapeake Hunt Club that we hunted today is set up that way. I've had occasion to work with other growers and same thing. So that's
the Chesapeake. That's great. Thank you for that. The Chesapeake's like your newest child in this habitat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, this was number one, and then let me see. This was probably 7 years old when we started the Chesapeake, working on that, and we started with laser leveled rice fields, and turned it into what you saw today. We're hunting in natural marsh, and
so there was no natural marsh.
No.
At all.
No, it was all laser leveled rice fields.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Hey, we should get that goose off.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Almost forgot about that.
You can't grab that.
Is it still good?
You didn't know.
Hey Ed, what do you think about that goose?
Uh-oh.
Hey Ed, what do you think about that goose? Shouldn't we take that goose off?
Yeah?
Well, here it is. Now you think if you shot right over Tony, it would deafen you, right? Okay, we're shooting out at these ducks, at these flocks of ducks, and maybe we get one, maybe we don't. However, over the course of the winter, they become deaf. And so when you're calling these ducks and they don't come, that's the only logical explanation is that they're deaf. Right? That's all I have to say about that. There's 3 specks. Get down, guys. If you think you can kill one, I can kill one. Go ahead then. Take them. Nice. They fled the sections, starting from the north, coming down a little at a time, and they try to manage for some watergrass and some smartweed growth. And are you guys familiar with the water management, the scenario for smartweed and watergrass? Well, watergrass and sprangletop will germinate in the water, in shallow water. And it warms up, and you put water on it, and you can leave the water on it shallow. The watergrass will come up through it and do well. The smartweed requires aerated soil. So you don't want the soil dried out. You want a moist soil scenario. However, it has to be aerated for the smartweed to germinate. Once it's germinated and growing, you can put the water on it and it will flourish.
Wow. Is that why
It does well.
over there to grow that?
Yes, and what has happened, of course, over time, we get other weeds that we don't want. We get cocklebur, we get joint grass, which it's like an aquatic Bermuda grass on steroids.
It's like bamboo or...
Well, it looks just like Bermuda grass. Grows prostrate, so you can, but it's bigger, and it'll survive in a drought scenario, but when you put water on it, I mean, it just explodes. And then now we have several other weeds that have come along here. We have primrose and buttercup, and now I'm seeing in the slough, I'm seeing water hyacinth and another weed called parrot's feather. And all of these are just terrible weeds that we have to deal with. So in the summertime when it's dry, to come out here and disc this, it's the simplest way to try to control it, because you disc it and you dry out the topsoil, and those rhizomes will dry out and you can kill them.
Let me ask you this, so as long as you had this here, have you ever had a season where you guys were so dry you couldn't flood this?
No, even in the drought, because we have the wells. It costs us a whole bunch more, but with the wells, as soon as the crop is done, then we can divert not all of the water, but a significant amount of the water to here from the wells. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wells that we can divert to this property. It takes a lot longer to flood because of you get on a good well, you're going to get 4,000 gallons a minute, maybe 5. That's a huge well. That's a lot of water. So a couple of the wells we have are in the 2,000 gallon a minute range. So whereas those low lift pumps, there's a 50 and a 20 over there. I think they'll pump just between the two of them, because you're only lifting that water about 3 feet, 4 feet maybe, or we'll pump about 18,000 gallons a minute between the two of them. That's a lot of water. And it's also predicated upon how high the slough is on the other side of the levee. So that's part of it too. It's all, you gotta throw in the chicken and a half, day and a half factors, and square root of the abastamus on the furnastanus, and then you know exactly how much water you're getting on any given time frame.
Sounds about right. You come up with that equation yourself?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm. Coming around. Oh shit, shoot him. Shoot him. There you go. We got him. That's 4 specks. Now I'm almost in the black here.
You're the black guy.
Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes.
On Sundays and Wednesdays,
fun game.
if you didn't hunt in the morning, you can hunt in the afternoon.
Okay.
So you can come out, and I don't know, we're supposed to be in at 11. Technically, I think the afternoon you're supposed to come out at 1, but that's pretty a small thing. But you can come out and then hunt till quitting time.
Oh, okay.
So, but the idea, of course, the whole duck club scenario is based on loafing versus pressure. And, every club has its own, and every year, and blinds and areas, it changes, and it changes with the weather, it changes with the birds, it changes, it's a moving target. However, just to be able to put some sort of no, it's not quantitative, but it's something you can grab onto, is that the loafing is everything. That, the reason we planted all these trees was to prevent the ducks from being site sensitive. So now, of course, these trees are all deciduous. These are all black willows, but for the majority of the duck season, they create a screen. So any farm work, any cars driving by, any kind of input that might bother the birds is not there. Coming. Oh boy. Shoot him. There's one there, that's 3. Here comes Ruddy with 1. Got one? That was 4, but was there 4 or 5? I mean, we should have had more than that, I think.
There's another one behind me out here.
Yeah. When we first started the duck club business, all the rice fields were burned. Well, over time, with air quality issues, they're down to burning no more than 25% of your rice. You have to go in and register the exact fields you want to burn, and then they tell you. And as of right now, I bet they haven't burned 5%.
Really?
And because of the restrictions based on wind directions and how much lift, the Air Resources Board manages all this stuff, and so there's very little burning. Well, so what's happened is the farmers have had to do something with the straw. So one of the easiest ways is to decompose it in the water. And what you basically want is to have that straw in contact with the soil surface, and the soil microbes will help to will break it down over time. Of course, in the wintertime, the water's cold and the ground is cold, and it happens very slowly. Also, the rice straw is really high in cellulose, so it's pretty stout and takes a while to break down. But because of the change in the burn is probably the significant factor in what's happened in the valley. We grow approximately 500 to 550,000 acres of rice in the Sacramento Valley a year. We're the number 2 state in rice production. And now, those guys were shooting, I think it. No, they might turn around. A little high, huh? Can you kill one? You can kill one. We've gone to this decomposing the rice straw by putting the winter water on. Well, so most of the farmers either lease ground out or they put duck blinds and rent them out to try to help offset the cost. But the fact of the matter is that now we are flooding approximately 300,000 acres more ground than we used to when we used to burn. Because when they would burn, then they would go in the fall and work the ground up and start getting it ready for the next year. So now all of this ground is being flooded, and we've created this fabulous amount of habitat. And it's not only the waterfowl, but it's also the shorebirds. You know, not only ducks and geese and swans, but yeah, lots of shorebirds. And it's so what we have done is we have changed the carrying capacity of the flyway from the limiting factor used to be the wintering grounds. Now it's the nesting grounds. Because we have, and also this 300,000 acres that we're flooding there's a lot of food value. There's the waste grain, there's the grain on the checks, and then as you keep the field flooded and the rice starts to decompose, in the spring you typically get invertebrate blooms, and so the ducks you know, and the ducks switch from a high carbohydrate diet to a high protein diet as they go towards egg laying. So it's been an incredible from a waterfowl and a waterfowl loving and waterfowl hunting standpoint. It's an incredible thing. Oh, not there.
I feel like a boat shed. Where you had parked your boats.
Yeah, every blind has a boat house.
Yeah, then back. I like where you guys park.
Okay, let me tell you about, because you can't see it now, but what we do is we plant trees around every one of these blinds, okay? And then, now as soon as duck season's over, we will come back here and we will cut all of these willows off below the frame of the blind. Then we have all spring and all summer, these trees will push 15 feet of growth.
Oh, wow.
The good ones, the ones that are really healthy. And then we come back with our zip ties in the fall, and we're zip tying those live trees. It's new pliable growth, and then we zip tie the live trees down to the blind so that it's going through. So it's a live tree that you're hunting in, as opposed to a big brown spot in a green area.
That's amazing.
So that's what you're seeing here, but because all the leaves are gone, it doesn't, jump out at you.
Too?
It's a black willow, yes. So that's our way of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, let's pick up some decoys, huh?
Right on.
You have 2 logs in.
Okay, now the other thing, Tyler, is these wood ducks have been used to living here. Go ahead, Tyler. Woodies. We got to get in the blind here. Find a bird. Find a bird. Land. Land. Right here, right there. Oh, Mallard. Go ahead, Tyler. Nice. No, not to him, not to him.
Sorry, I got excited.
That's okay. You didn't shoot it. And if it's going to happen, it's just, I try, we have a pair and you can recognize the drake. We just try to surgically remove the drake from the flock.
Another mallard.
If that's okay.
Love it. This is unbelievable.
Come on, Ruddy, got a girl. Got a girl. That's a good dog. Oh, very nice.
Well, they're coming back, maybe. Watch them. Here they come. Right up front.
Shoot him. Go ahead, Tyler. Pick the back bird. Back. Oh. Shoot him again. Shoot him again. Shoot him again. If we can get him behind us, or just get him just a little closer to the blind and set. Oh, here we shoot. Now we scared those. That's and I think we might have a little set. Now they saw us for sure. See them flaring? See, we've lost 3 ducks here now already. sailors. I mean, not, you know. I had the one Woody down over there, and then we had that mallard, that Drake mallard that you hit out of the pear, Tyler.
Yeah.
And then we had
Mike,
that
tell me
wood
what
duck.
GDD is.
Triple D stands, my wife and daughters, when I built my little quack shack, started referring to our get-togethers and our group as Triple Ds, which myself and my friends refuted drastically. And over time, it just became part of our, we just accepted it, and now we embrace it. And it stands for Ducks, Decoys, and Dorks.
Let me see that hat.
And that was that's what my wife and daughters refer to the Triple D. And so after we established that we were Triple D, we were in fact, it was all about ducks, decoys, and dorks. Then we started making some rules. For instance, there is no president. Everybody is a vice president of something. And we have our dinners and our get-togethers, and it's all referred to as Triple D. We have we talk about if there's somebody shoots a hen mallard, for instance, like this morning. I won't mention any names, Tyler. Then he might get a letter from the Board of Governors of Triple D. And then when Jim Schmidland and Vic and Moose started coming out, we established the Eastern affiliate of Triple D. So, and Vic will be here tomorrow. He lives in Minerva, Ohio. So that's kind of the short version of Triple D, but that's where it came from. Feed the family. Here's a Woody behind us. Right here. I truly believe the wind changed a little bit, just the drift. You know, if you had a strip of tules here, it would block the birds to some degree. So I use just open water, and then they can swim in. And then these trees, before they grew up, see, I put these telephone poles in, and I staked them all along here in different places. But these trees were way smaller, and so it was kind of like the start of the loafing or the perches other than the mounds. And then over time, as these trees have grown up, when they fall down and they parallel the water, I'll show you like one over here, right here. You know, you can see other logs that I've drug underneath, but this is a natural tree here that's still alive. It's fallen down, but you skin the smaller branches off, and so it just creates a natural perch for the wood ducks. Specifically, now the mallards will use these logs that are next to the water, and they'll get up on these, but this is definitely wood duck. This is what they love, and they can come right out of the water and hop up. And some of these branches that kind of stick up at an angle that are clean, before season opens, I can drive by and look through the openings of the trees over there in my pickup, and I can see sometimes as many as a dozen wood ducks on one branch.
Like
it's pretty cool.
Branches.
Yeah, they'll get right up on the.
Wow.
I was trying to find one that down here maybe where I could see it from the. You know, it's obvious from the road. Probably like this right here. See, I can see through here. I can see my road from here. So these branches will hold wood ducks. And of course, this lower stuff where there's water, that's automatic. See, and look at the. See, that's where the ducks have been pooping. So yeah, and this particular one that I cut off, I bring my tractor out here, and of course I have an 85 horsepower tractor, and I can hook on with a chain, and I can just pull this stuff wherever I want. And then a lot of these trees here, I have not in addition to the mounds, I'll pull I can lengthen that chain so that when I go next to the tree and I make the chain long enough, then when I pull it around, it pulls the log in underneath the tree. So it works out good. So, and then there's another one of my old phone poles that I used originally, and they still use them, but
Very cool.
every time I cut a tree down, I skin it and bring the logs out here. Keep pulling them, and it's fun.
Right. How fast are these willows? These are black willows?
These are black willows.
How fast do they grow? I mean,
Well, these trees are I planted them 19 years ago.
okay.
Yeah.
Really filled in.
So, and they were sticks. You know, you just take and you cut off a little. Well, something like this. This would be a small one, but you don't want too big because you can't push them in the ground as far. But you cut something like this off, and of course this is an easy one because it doesn't even have anything sticking out. But let me see. Oh, stuff like this one, and you want to cut it off before it bends, so you have a straight shot. And then I just brought them out here and I just pushed them in the ground as far as I could.
And they'll take.
And I did it this time of the year, so they have and you know, it's a basic deal where they haven't started to leaf out yet. If you do it in the summertime and you leave leaves on the trees, they're trying to support the leaves and they have no roots, and it's an imbalance. So you push these things, you cut them off and you push them in the ground with no leaves and they're dormant, they will start putting roots out. And then as long as you get them down into the water table, then they'll survive. And they push roots down, and then it'll be 2 months before they'll start leafing out.
Wow.
So yeah, so all these trees you see here started from just a little shoot that we stuck in a branch, little twig that we stuck in the ground. I bought this property in 1997. And in 1999, the government wanted to add to their storage, because this is the main drain for Yuba City. This is Gilsizer Slough. And it used to originate up in Yuba City and then wind down through this area, down through the Sutter Basin, and dump into the Sacramento River. When they put the levees in 1917, it blocked the flow. And so the state had put a pumping plant right up here to the northwest of us, and all the water from Yuba City then is diverted from here. It goes around the edge of my property and then goes back north to the pumps about a mile. They wanted, after we had the flood in '97, they wanted to move dirt. Well, they came to me and they asked me if they said they would dig the dirt and haul it away for free. And I said, well, I had wheat in that field right next to where they wanted to do the work, and so I said, well, you just haul it right there. And I created the mound there to put my house on. So that was in 1999. So then we started building our home. And then I exited the duck club that I was a part of in the Butte Sink. And so that in 2000 is when I started here. I started planting these trees in 2000, the first trees, and then kept adding to it. And like I was telling you, the main reason that I started the first plantings were to create an edge effect, to eliminate site exposure to birds. If the farmers next to me were either driving around their fields and were exposing themselves to my duck area, or tractors working or whatever. So that was the first thing, and then I started planting. Then I made some mounds. I had a 15-yard laser scraper with a 300 horsepower John Deere, and I started making mounds out here and planted trees on the mounds. And it took about, I think it was like, 3 years before I killed my first limit of ducks out here. So over time, though, we've established a good resident population of wood ducks. I have about 80 wood duck boxes out, and we manage those actively. You know, every year we put new shavings in and get rid of the bugs. Ants and the wasps are our two main culprits there in the boxes, but
About in scope of California waterfowl, what is the Sutter Basin and this area of California hunting kind of mean to you, and how do you think it? Yeah.
Well,
stick out?
okay. Well, I grew up in the Delta, moved to Ileton when I was in 8th grade, and started hunting, and there were tons of birds that used the Delta. The cornfields, the dry cornfields, gosh, the sprig would come in there by the bazillions, and for whatever reason, over time, that has become less and less, although there are large properties now. Some of those islands are owned individually, and they hold lots of birds, but they seem like they're more concentrated. And then up here with, of course, the rice culture, and now not burning and flooding the rice fields in the wintertime for straw decomp, we've created about 300,000 acres of additional habitat that wasn't there, in addition to the refuge system and the private duck clubs. The Butte Sink, which is about 10 miles, 15 miles straight north of us here on the west side of the Buttes, is a very famous waterfowl hunting area. It's Robert Stack owned a duck club there. There's many celebrities. Charles Schwab owns a duck club there now, and there's lots of high-end people that have made fortunes that hunt up there. And the Sutter Bypass comes down alongside the Buttes and comes all the way down, goes past us, and it's a main flyway area. In addition, we have the Sutter National Wildlife Refuge directly to the west of us here, and we hold lots of birds in this area. And so in combination with the rice and the refuge system and all the hunt clubs and the natural marshes and areas that we hold birds, we're very fortunate up here, and I feel like we have probably more birds up here now than we had in the Delta when I was a kid. So that's been the big thing, and when I got the opportunity, the company that I was working for right out of college offered me this area up here. I looked like a black bass on a surface plug. I couldn't grab this area quick enough. And they moved up here, and it was all predicated because I thought there was more ducks up here than there was where I was living. So there's not much of a business decision there, but it's worked out really well for me. Yeah, very happy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool.
That answer the question?
That was great. What's your favorite thing about your marsh here?
I guess that I made it. I'd have to say absolutely that I made it. When I moved here, it was a pasture, and then the rest of the area was just solid round stem bulrush. And I kind of had a vision, and I planted some tules out here in the marsh. Of course, I de-leveled this and made mounds and planted trees, and everything, all the trees you see here, I planted, or my friends and I, particularly my friend Fred Bassett, helped me immensely plant all these trees, and to be able to sit here on my own property and shoot ducks is beyond. It's beyond. I can't really put it into words. It's just a wonderful thing.